What's up, everyone, and welcome back to The Flip Side, a GYTO podcast where we break down, share, and challenge flip perspectives and insights on different hot topics in education. This episode is part 2 of a 2-part episode and a continuation of last week's conversation. So if you didn't tune in last week, be sure to check out part 1 before listening. But without further ado, we're diving in and picking up right where we left off with part 2.
Sort of, I've got time. It's just insert elective or arts class name.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's a narrative that needs to change in all schools. And I will say, I also think it needs to change among arts and elective teachers.
Yeah.
You got to get your kids cleaned up, because I've been on that other side where as a grade level teacher, I'm at the door and waiting and my kids aren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still waiting. Oh, we've got 1 million crayons to clean up. Oh, great. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is cutting into my mouth.
And that happens often in many schools.
Yes.
Where the teacher is on time waiting at the door. And now on the flip side of that, the arts teacher is still with the class before.
Yes.
And there's no sense of urgency that, and now I have to get to my PLC. I have to get here. So that's where that, on both sides, the narrative starts to play of what this looks like. I think also, and I've been very fortunate to work with incredible arts teachers. We were at an arts integrated school. So like that was a priority of like that content. They're working on something that is going to be some final product in there. But I think there is this narrative, and I'm just going to call it out, that arts sometimes are looked as childcare, or 100%. This is going to be
break time.
Like
it's break time.
Exactly.
Break.
Exactly. Like, oh, I'm going to go to my meeting, and this is who's going to help them.
It's an extra break.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I've seen that in many schools as we've gone to different schools.
I have too.
And I've gone to arts class, and they're like, oh, do you want to see the arts class? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, this is not what I thought it would be.
Right.
I think also because there is a shortage of solid special and arts teachers that are passionate about their craft, that are killing it with content. That narrative easily can be, well, this is just what it is. This is how it's always been. That I know when I pick them up, there's going to be these behavior issues. I know it's like a holding area kind of narrative, which is not reality everywhere. But unfortunately, in a lot of schools, that may be what they're seeing is there's a long-term sub in there or different things like that. So how do you handle students and the behaviors that are coming in? How do you handle that kind of, these are not your kids all the time? Right. How do you make that transition as an arts teacher?
I think the biggest thing is one, you said they're not my kids all the time, but they are my kids.
Yeah.
And I think that takes communication. Communicating with that classroom teacher, that grade level teacher, not at the door, because we know there's not time, but via email. Hey, can I just stop by at some point when it's good for you? I just want to talk about, these kids, or is there, I just want to get some more feedback and kind of background knowledge, because that's how then I can better serve and work with those students, is when I understand who they are. Because again, like I said earlier, I don't see them all day.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I don't see them all day, I don't know the things that transpired. And I open up the door to a student who is shut down. They will barely come in my room.
Often.
And so when you have to address that, there has to be communication. I have to address it with the teachers and find out, and also getting to talk to the students and reaching out to parents. I will always say, as arts educators, I know we've got a lot on our plate, just like every other teacher does. You have to make those phone calls, reach out via email. It also sets the precedence that, yes, I only have your child for one class period a day, but their behavior and their success in my class is just as important as it is in math, in science, in ELA, in social studies, whatever they're learning. And I think when we do that, we are setting that narrative that, listen, I know that my class and what I teach, the school grade is not riding on what I do.
Right.
I know that the money we may get is not riding on what I do. Yeah. It does not lessen, though, the importance of what
your role. Yeah.
And I think that's a whole nother tangent I can go on. We need to stop saying, well, is this class important?
Right.
Do they really need to go to this class? Do they really need art? We need to change that to, how is this class important?
Yeah.
Not are my students benefiting, but how are they?
Yeah. And I think that, just in listening to you talk, I'm reflecting on what I could have done better, as a classroom teacher, sending my kids to specials and involving that in part of the process. And I was listening to you talk about behaviors and relationships. And I think that one of the things that I wish that I could do better and could have done better looking at my past years of experience is, even reached out to the art, because I'm thinking of from a classroom teacher, what can we do better to really make this a learning journey versus, okay, this is a break, this is we always say it takes a village. is reaching out to those special areas teachers and saying, hey, what are you covering this week or what are you covering this month? Because then what that allows, here's what I don't want teachers to think I'm saying, because teachers immediately tune out if they hear work with your arts teachers to integrate. Yeah. They're like, I don't have time. I can't. I'm trying to learn my own standards.
Totally.
But if I knew what Miss OT was teaching this week, even bringing that into conversation, hey, you know what? I bet in Miss OT's class this week, I bet in Mr. King, if Mr. King's the PE, I bet Mr. King's class this week, or just using your names throughout the narrative of the week consistently.
Just having that communication. Yeah.
Because that makes it like, oh, part of the classroom family. Yeah. Versus half the time you'll say, all right, we're going to Miss OT class. Who? Oh, the art teacher. That some of the special areas teachers, the kids don't even know their names in the school. Yeah. They know, oh, we're going to art class. And now eventually, obviously, after being with them for many years, but like kindergartners, first graders. So I think that we have to be intentional, in our classrooms to, again, as part of our classroom daily, weekly narrative, to infuse the names, the conversations, the concepts, even just into the atmosphere. I'm not saying you have to do a special lesson in coordination with, but have those as part of the classroom culture, the classroom conversation, and the narrative of school for those kids.
And I think
I wish I would have done that.
And I think that can also fall on arts teachers. I think it, again, I'm very grateful for the unique perspective I have, having done both.
Yeah,
and
which is rare a lot of
very
times.
Rare.
Very rare.
And I think, it has really helped me, and it's also helped me to sort of, in both schools where I've been an arts teacher, sort of bridge that divide. And let's be clear, there is very much in a lot of schools a divide between arts educators and elective teachers and grade level or content area.
Absolutely.
It exists. And I think it can also fall on us. I have a warm-up that I do with my students called Code Word. Every day on the whiteboard and on my screen, there's a word, just one word. But it's a warm-up my students can do. My students lead all the warm-ups. And I reached out to every middle school teacher in my school.
Oh, yeah.
Every content area.
Talk about
and I just said, hey, I do this daily warm-up. It's called Code Word. If you have any vocabulary, then that's a whole another episode. I could talk about vocabulary, the importance of vocabulary in every subject. Whatever vocabulary you have, if there are words your kids are struggling, or even a unit you're doing, I would love to use it. Had dozens of teachers on my campus reach out, and still have them reach out. And I've been using that. Yeah. So I integrate it. It's such a simple thing. It's one thing. It's one word I write on the board. But to have kids, raise their hand, I taught that. I heard that in Miss Higley's ELA class, or we did that in Miss Haddock's civics class. And not only is it great, but because in middle school, some of my classes are mixed grades, 7th and 8th graders who had that word back in 6th grade, they're like, how did I know that? I remember. It's such a simple way. And yes, and I 100% agree with you. People hear integration. People hear, you want me to do something, one more thing on my plate, and they shut off. But it is so simple. And again, just a simple, email, or, hey, I noticed you had these things outside your classroom. This connects to something I'm doing. Yeah. I'll be sure to mention it in PE or art or whatever. It is.
It's the mentions. It's making the connection.
Yes.
Across. It's not that you have to do a special lesson to make a connection. It's a mention. It's a conversation. It's a piece of the puzzle. Totally. So let's go here now. Okay. Let's go to the conversation of, well, your class isn't assessed. You don't have to worry about that. You just get to have fun with the kids. And as a matter of fact, if you just want to even take a week off and not do anything, because who really cares? What you're teaching doesn't matter. And I know that's not the exact words, but essentially that's what teachers are saying. If they're saying, oh, you don't have to worry about being assessed, or here's another conversation. Why are you stressed out as a teacher? You're not even in the classroom. Like, why are you stressed? You teach drama. Yeah. Like, you teach drama
and they may not even be saying those words, but all the actions are saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's maybe dive into first the standardized testing part, and then we'll dive into the why are you stressed out, because you only teach drama, so you really don't have to worry about the standardized testing part.
And I've had some of those words said to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I think it's an awareness, first off, from arts teachers to, yes, acknowledge. I understand. I know that. However, I would say, go to any state standards website and you will see theater has state standards that the kids need to learn. If you are taking this class, they need to know this. Dance, art, physical education, they all have it. Yep. So I would say, if we break it down, you have standards that you need to teach, and you find a way through your daily lessons and the things you did to teach them. I do the same. You have a state assessment. You have a standardized test. I don't have that. However, I have full productions we have to put on.
Yes.
I have 20 different
That's
in
the
my
final.
class. That's the final. I have 20 different, duets that I have to have these kids.
I have parents coming to see my assessment.
Yes.
They're actually going to be in the testing room.
I have a sold out crowd.
The whole
in that
community is
auditorium
coming to my test.
Exactly.
Not have students performing below grade level.
Yes, right.
They need to meet the benchmark.
And then if it's
Exactly.
bad performance,
You're
those
exceeding.
teachers are going to be like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, I'm so
Yes.
well, you didn't get your kids there on time.
Exactly. Yes.
What have you been doing with these kids? Yeah.
I always love the well, your class is fun. And I've said this to people before. I said, I was the fun teacher when I taught second grade too.
Right.
It's not,
Yeah.
That's not
Correct.
It's
fun.
not
It is fun.
you can make any class
Correct.
engaging. You can make
Yes.
any content engaging. And it doesn't mean you're jumping up on tables dancing or doing full ride transformations, even though that's what I do.
Right.
You don't have to do that. But I do think that it goes back to that divide. We need to stop seeing ourselves as two different sets of teachers, as two different sets of community. We are all part of the same faculty. Our goal in the end is the same, to educate our students in whatever content we want.
Yeah.
To hopefully make them good people along the way, to support them in their needs. And I will always say this, I also think that administration plays a huge part in this, in how they address and respect and work with, include their arts and electives teachers. And I will even say this, if we go back to picking up on time, I will say the onus is also on administrators. If you want to hold a meeting for teachers during their plan period when their kids are at an arts class,
Let them out in time. Yep.
and you hold your teachers knowingly behind, knowing that they have to go pick up their kids, I'm sorry, that's on you as an admin.
Yeah.
And my husband's an administrator. So I'm not like, I have mad respect for administrators. Chris was my administrator, for a year at my old school. I have utmost respect for administrators, but it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And so I think it is the entire school community changing the way we look at our arts and elective teachers and grade level and content area teachers to understand we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that if we can change that narrative, I think we can sort of change this, well, you don't need to get these kids ready for,
And I think it's going to take, truly, one, we need more incredible arts teachers that are experts in their craft.
I agree.
So many schools are lacking the resources, the teachers in those positions. So it does easily turn to that because they're like, well, we just found this person off the street and now they're the PE coach or the dance teacher. And we have even at our school been in circumstances like that where we're like, we don't have anyone, but these kids need some place to go for this time. So this is the alternative, and it's not been great, obviously, but that's not going to help it. But it's also going to take arts teachers and general ed teachers both kind of loosening up a little bit on certain things. So when it comes time for we're preparing for standardized testing or things like that, arts teachers already know that is what the school is graded on.
Yes.
That is how we're going to move kids. That is the perception of the school. They're going to remember the production of Cinderella, but they're also going to be seeing these, we're an F school at some point. Like 100%. That is going to outweigh the production of Cinderella at that point. So it's going to take both teams being like, we need to work together because you're right. Like Nikki said, the school goals set in a school improvement plan or things like that, it's not going to be about the arts or things like that. Yeah. But those things are going to be help them get to that. It's just that mentality of how do we both accomplish that at the same time that we just need to have more conversations about. And that is something that Nikki, as a teacher, was never shy about, which I appreciate is let's just talk about. Let's just talk about it and see. Here it is. Maybe they may not necessarily agree on the outcome, but let's at least get this on the floor of this is what this looks like, and getting everyone all in on both sides of that, of what that looks like. Because also at our school, and we were only together a brief time there, but this huge production at the end of the year, the whole school needs to be involved in that, especially at the elementary level, because she only has 30 minutes after school once a week to get them ready. Like there is going to be some compromise after the testing that's going to have to support her in her program. And it's just that kind of flexibility from both sides that I think is very much needed.
I agree.
And I know we talked a lot about theater and the arts, but we talk about PE, all special. Really is what we're talking about.
My first job was a PE teacher.
Oh, tell us more.
Yes.
That's what I did. So so I kind of, it was a long-term sub. So I was a graduate, December graduate. And so that's the first job I had. And so I, like when you're talking, I'm like reminiscing of the kids being dropped off late or getting picked up late. I have all these hula hoops and things, and I've literally planned this whole lesson. And what in the world?
That's the thing too, is like specials teachers work so hard to plan their lesson,
and the time is
like,
so limited. I didn't realize as a teacher, I know the time block. Like I know 45 minutes, whatever. But it wasn't until I started having to observe arts teachers in action that I'm like, oh, this is good, and they're like, all right, we're done. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
We're just getting started. What is happening? Like, I could literally sit in your room or others art teachers' rooms for so long. And it's like, you just got to the good part. And now it's like, they're done. Like, yeah.
So last question I have is, why are you so stressed out as an arts teacher, though? Because you only have the kids for like 45 minutes. And so it really doesn't matter. If they misbehave, it's only 45 minutes that you have to deal with it. I have to deal with it all day long. You're not, we've already addressed the standardized testing, but whatever. Like, why are you frustrated with school? Why are you stressed out? Why are you tired at the end of every day? Because you don't have to worry about all the traditional things that educators have to worry about.
All the thoughts that I will be very honest, I am certain I had when I was a grade level teacher, not an arts teacher. And I can own that. I will always say we've all got our struggles and there's difficult parts to every job. I will turn around and say, oh, do you enjoy your class of one group that you have all day of 25 kids? Let me tell you, I teach 200 kids all day. I have 200 personalities that I need to know. I have 50 kids who have IEPs and 504s, and I've got to know their accommodations because those things exist in my room too. I've got 6 different classes that I have to
today on Monday, and then 6 different ones on Tuesday, and 6 different ones on Wednesday.
I've got all these different levels. I've got to remember all the different scripting and staging and everything for 4 levels of theater, and I've got to remember that there is a standardized testing next week. So I'm going to lose all my laptops because I'm lucky enough to have 10, but I'm going to lose them. So now I'm going to have to reconfigure my lessons, and because the kids won't have that, and it's all relative. Yep. And I think what you said, if we go back to the flexibility, if there's just the conversation, I think a lot of these misconceptions could be eliminated, and we could all have what I think we all need in this world, just a little bit more grace for each other, just a little bit more understanding. And, at the end of the term, when some of my colleagues were like, my standardized tests are done, we are coasting to the end, I'm like, I've got a show next week. And I've got 3 performances. It's all relative. But I think it comes down again to communicating and recognizing the talents and the abilities of all the teachers in the building.
Yes.
And also knowing that the social studies teacher might be a great musician.
Yeah.
And how cool would it be to have Mr. King come into our class for music class and sing? Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. You're showing, we all have different sides to ourselves.
Yeah. And even if you can't empathize, because I'm a classroom teacher, I've never been a special. To me, there is no limit for like respect. And
that's what I was going to say. Respect. It's respect. It's
even if you haven't lived that, respecting the talent, respecting the time, because otherwise what are we teaching?
This is a professional that's been hired by this school to work here. And the same way you respect this teacher, the same way you should respect the front office staff, the cafeteria worker, whoever it is. And kids see that.
And I love what you said about, if you're as a teacher, okay, we'll get to art when we get there. Well, you're showing kids that it's okay to disrespect people. That it's okay to minimize people.
Their time isn't as important.
And also, these are certified teachers in their content. I remember when Nikki switched from general ed to there, we were like, okay, you got to take the test. So she's like, okay, let's they have to go through all these different. It's not just like, oh, who wants to teach Pete today? Okay, here we go. It's not a camp counselor position, which I think is a narrative we need to break. Like, they are experts in their craft. They have to be certified to be here, and they have a ton of standards they need to do. And in reality, a lot of their standards are going to help you with a lot of your standards, because a lot of things that you did in theater, I easily integrated into my ELA lesson. Like, even math, you were integrating into movement and all these different things. It is going to help us both ways. We just have to kind of get there. Now, last thing I want to talk about, unless someone else has another thing, but there are a lot of teachers, and I was kind of naive to this until we started traveling to more and more schools and district, where maybe there's one arts teacher for multiple schools within the district, or 0 arts teachers, and the general education teacher is responsible for arts time there. I remember Naomi one time when she was teaching 2nd grade, she was like, yeah, hold on, I'm doing arts right now with my kids' PE, but then I said, oh, can you call me then? She's like, no, I am doing it now, because we don't have that. And I was like, what is, and then I started seeing it more and more of this lack of arts. Chase just texted that there was one district that the arts teacher, there's one for the district. At the end of the year, they were quitting, and they were like, we just won't replace that position. We'll figure an alternative.
There's a librarian. Yeah. It was.
But there's other ones too.
Yeah. Any specials or things like that. So what would you kind of say to that narrative for these teachers that are in a school where there's one arts teacher for multiple schools, or the district, and it's not there? What advice would you have for them? Because we know the importance of it.
Oh my gosh.
What advice would you kind of have for them as they navigate their school year? Because it does look different than sending your kids to arts in there, and then they also don't have that PLC time either. So
exactly,
there's not a benefit there. But what would you have for them for just making sure to prioritize arts as well without the resources or support?
I think if you are in a situation where either it's a teacher that is, an arts teacher who is amongst different schools, or doesn't necessarily have a classroom, it's an art on the cart, which I've seen before, or if you yourself are the teacher. First off, I think the first thing I want to say is if you are a grade level teacher who is in the situation where you have to be the arts teacher, maybe giving yourself that grace to know we're not expecting you to teach at the same level that a certified art teacher would be. And if you are being held to that standard, I think that's very unfair because that's not your area of expertise. I think also realizing that part of it is just the journey. And I think it's also, if I'm a second grade teacher who's also got to teach art, I'm not going to start with, okay, guys, Miss T really can't draw, but no, let's do this together. It's Miss T is also learning how to draw. So we're going to do this together. And it's, make it simple, make it something that everyone is working on together. I think the other part of it is, I tell my students every day, if there's nothing else you learn when you come into my classroom, I want you to understand the power of your voice. The power of your voice and speaking up. And I think even more than advice to teachers if they had to be in that position, it's speak up. It's amazing what you can do when you get the power of people speaking up to say, our kids deserve to have someone who really knows PE, really knows music, really knows art, because someone in this room, even just one kid, is a future musician.
Yeah.
They're a future artist.
Yeah.
And they deserve the opportunity to be exposed to that by people who are professionals. And so I think speaking up at school committee meetings, at, parent association meetings, writing letters and emails to whoever, I think there's something to be said for that. In the meantime, while you're working to use your voice for change, I think reaching out to other districts, to teachers on social media and sharing, hey, I'm a teacher, at Smith Elementary. I teach second grade. I've got to do music for my kids. Social media is a wonderful thing. It can allow you to reach out to people you wouldn't normally be able to. And I think reaching out and saying, hey,
that's great.
Can you help me with your area of expertise? How can I integrate music into my room? I've got to do it anyway. How can I do that? But in a perfect world, I would love every school to have arts because it impacts all of us, even if that's not what your profession becomes.
For sure. Oh, yeah. I think a lot of times, especially being in an arts integrated school and an arts magnet school, some of the most struggling students in ELA and math are the lead in the production.
Yes.
And everyone is like, what is happening? And that is what they needed. But no one knew that until they got to fifth grade.
Exactly.
This is their outlet. This is where they thrive. Like they maybe are not performing high in reading, but they're memorizing all those lines of that script.
Yeah.
So how do we kind of pull on those apps, I think.
And they've got to read that script.
Yeah.
So they are practicing those things in my room anyways.
Fluently.
Yes,
No.
fluently,
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So let everyone know, we can go on for hours about this topic, all of us, but let us know where everyone can connect with you, follow you for more things, Nikki OT.
Oh, yeah. I am on social media, Instagram. It's not Twitter anymore. What is it, X? All the things. I'm at Integrate and Educate. That is my handle. And I love connecting with teachers, both arts teachers and grade level content area teachers, just to support you in ways that you can use the arts in your classroom in very simple, manageable ways. So.
Yeah. And if you're ever at a Teach-On conference, you will see Nikki all around.
I'm all around. I'm always
as
there.
Leader of our Magic Squad. So absolutely incredible. But thank you guys so much for watching another episode of The Flip Side. New episodes air every Monday. You can watch it live in studio on YouTube or listen on your favorite streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Music, all the things. But until then, we will catch you on The Flip Side. Bye, guys. Have a great week.